One little fellow we had, he started off in Year 6 and concluded Year 7 with us last year. Dysfunctional in the classroom, lovely child, but had lots of behaviours that he'd developed to hide what he did. Last year he just flew after his 6 months out here, and his confidence, he ended up a school prefect. Just that component was life-changing for him, but then his attitude with his schoolwork. He'd give anything a go, he'd help other kids. He was a great mentor then for our children in the lower years, in assisting those and helping them with reading strategies and how they might attack things. So his was life-changing, and the sad part was that he passed away from a very rare cancer just before the Easter holidays. So for him it was huge.
Oh, undoubtedly. Look, if you don't have that at least minimal literacy and numeracy levels, the outcomes, I mean, statistically are horrendous. You know, our jails, our mental asylums, our drug rehab centres are filled with people that just really haven't been able to make any transition from a school to a work or employment or even a civil lifestyle because of the barriers that are in that way.
These children, without being able to read, these children would have fallen by the wayside.
We have a very good mass education system that works for a mass of people but doesn't work for special individuals amongst us.
This particular opportunity addresses those young people who haven't succeeded too well in literacy learning, and this gives them the opportunity to redeem that lack of learning so far in a very positive environment that actually enables them to go on and complete through to the end of Year 12 or complete through to a position in education that gives them some opportunities later in life.
And I think they've been given a sense of confidence that they can actually complete, and that's what really limits most of us, isn't it? Is that where we don't have confidence to do something, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We don't do it because we can't do it because we don't do it. Whereas if you can do it, then you do it because you can do it and you get better at it. And that's really perhaps what we see from the tutorial centre is a reverse of that downward spiral, to the point where they can dig themselves out of a hole, see over the edge and see what they can do.
I've noticed as learning support teacher in the school, I've noticed a huge improvement in their ability to decode words and their confidence in taking part in any testing situation has just improved out of sight.
And I think the other part of it also is that their self-esteem has developed, not only through the interactions of the ladies here, but the interactions of everybody else. And they get to feel confident in their own person and confident enough to be able to go back to their school or into an apprenticeship or whatever and be successful at that.
It is quite phenomenal, if you like, the change that we can see in a few in particular that were behavioural concerns. I did an acting stint at Central last year and I got to know some of them quite well, and the change in those students is really, really pleasing to see.
Yes, they find their feet when they returned into our primary settings, but I think the biggest benefit for us is the long-term benefit, where a youngster goes into a high school setting where their learning would have been less and less successful, and they actually step up and say, I can do this. I'm a secondary school student now, I know what's required of me, I've got the skills, I can move on. So keeping kids at school, keeping them successful at school, in their secondary education, and actually seeing some of our youngsters now come out the other end and say, well, I'm now going to go into tertiary study. For a youngster who was not performing particularly well in literacy, I reckon that's got to be where we have to be. So that makes an impact on youngsters' lives, and it changes where they're going and what they're doing. So from that point of view, the centre has had a huge impact in the community.
And one of the solutions for excluded young people has in fact been, for particular cases, coming to this centre, and our success rate of those young people is in fact outstanding. It's 100% success rate.
Look, I think the tutorial centre is one of the most exciting things that I've seen in my time in education, because for me the kernel of the whole program is time, that the kids get a decent long whack of time to work on their literacy. And of course the other key component is the very organised, structured, methodical approach In some ways, and I'm not saying this in a pejorative sense, there's a little bit of old-fashioned sort of, get down to basics, repetition stuff, which I think is great. Not that it's done in an old-fashioned way, and it's done in a very caring way. But for me, too often, unfortunately, within the way schools are set up and the way they're staffed at 28 to 1 or whatever they are, despite our best efforts, we can find at the periphery solutions to try and address students' literacy. This is a big bang, big picture attempt, which is quite different and to anything that we can normally achieve in schools, because the students working virtually full-time for 6 months on their literacy, and they're working in a very structured, ordered program that monitors their progress, gives them goals they have to climb up to that aren't way above their head but still keep them stretching, and are just, the goalposts are just shifted gradually till they get further up the football field.
The centre's been running for a number of years now, and the support for the centre has been outstanding. It's grown from early days when we thought this will be a difficult task to a monster now that lives on itself because of its success. It's well known in the community, and we've gone from talking with parents to say, would you like your youngster to be part of this program, to almost the opposite now, where they come to us and say, I want my child in that program, I think it will be very good for him. That in itself says that the program has been very, very successful.
I think there are a whole lot of things that make this successful. One of those, I guess, is that these young people go away from school to do this.
And to learn in an environment which is separated from school but has lots of good school things about it. So good, strong, positive teaching, very clear-cut guidelines about what is expected and what will be accepted from students performance-wise. Lots of pats on the back and praise when things go well. But most of all, the impact has been on students' literacy gains and how it's changed their parents' perceptions about what happens at school and how they can be successful. So it's been great to see mums and dads actually become very, very involved in the learning process of their youngsters. That's been a boon.
The fact that of the children who've been through this program, we can talk about the individual stories of success of those young people, is testament to the difference it makes, not only in their reading and literacy level, but in their life chances and the way that they approach their community and the success that they can have in that community.
Look, in real terms, this has been a big partnership with the community. Yeah. There's a really tight relationship here between education and the rest of the community.
It has a lovely community atmosphere, like the ownership belongs to Gladstone.
Business generally and education have parted ways for a long time, and we haven't really understood each other very well. And in education we tend to see business as being very profit motivated, very self-interested, materialistic, it's about the bottom line. Whereas in fact once we go out and we start working with industry and with business people, we find that's not the case at all. Their fathers and their mothers and their sons and their community members, and they want to live in a society which is fair and decent, as well as being able to put a roof over their heads and clothes on their back of themselves and their children. Industry, by the same token, have seen us as being perhaps wishy-washy, not really concerned with quality, being soft, that sort of stuff. And sometimes we're as soft as we can be and as hard as we have to be. But we do know a lot of things and are able to do a lot of things we think that aren't appreciated out in business. So when we actually sit down and talk together, there's a lot of two-way learning going on that has enabled us to get some understanding. The word I use for it is capital. We've built up economic, social and cultural capital in this town that we can spend on things like the tutorial centre, the skills centre, because there's those understandings. Okay, it makes us rich in a sense that other places really aren't. Oh look,
the depth of the community engagement is what will help this program live into the future. You can't go beyond that. We need the community behind us, we need their support.
The difference here is the commitment of a whole range of people to make this work, and getting that community capital developed that enables it. And it's the fact that you've got Rotary clubs who put up their hand, you've got university students, you've got retired teachers, you've got retired businessmen, you've got this particular centre here with the Mission for Seafarers, you know, the cooperation of church, the cooperation of the Exodus Foundation in helping manage the money side of things. All of that adds together. Yeah, it's just a huge conglomeration of partnerships and commitment, and it's really wonderful to see the success that people, mums and dads, feel for their kids who have been able to come here.